Welcome back in here to the NFL Quick Talk Podcast. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, and we're going through the divisional round and predicting every single game. First up, on Saturday at 4:30 Eastern Time, we have the Texans playing at the Baltimore Ravens. The Texans are the 4 seed. They beat the Browns. Really was a beatdown. There was no contest after the first quarter. And C.J. Stroud looked like he was a top 3 quarterback in the league, and honestly could be if they beat the Ravens here. This is going to be a very tough matchup for the Houston Texans because their defense they played very well against the Browns, but they're not the greatest in the league, let's say. They're very young, but Baltimore has they don't have an elite offense. They have a very good offense. They have an elite defense. So it's going to be very hard for Houston to score. It's going to be a very tough, a very good matchup for Baltimore. Going to be very tough for Houston to score on Baltimore. They're going to have to get as many points as possible, And it's going to be very hard to drive down the field, in my opinion. But betting against C.J. Stroud is not going to end well for you. And Baltimore has a 9.5. They're 9.5 point favorites, and I'm taking Texas to cover those 9.5 points. It's going to be a very close game, in my opinion. I'm picturing something like 27-23, somewhere around that range. And I do think that the Ravens overall win, but 9.5 is a lot of disrespect for C.J. Stroud and the Texans, because C.J. Stroud is honestly, in his rookie year, with a not very good roster, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You look at, I'm just pulling up C.J. Stroud's stats here. 1 second. He's thrown for 4,000 yards and only 5 interceptions the whole year. I think that's a record. I thought I read that somewhere. But by and large, I think that the Ravens win by a score of 27-23 or something to that effect. Moving on, the nightcap to the Saturday games. This will be on Fox. The Packers playing at the 49ers, another classic NFC historical matchup. You had last week with the Packers and the Cowboys. The Packers just beat the crap out of them. This is like Texans and Ravens. This is literally like the Texans and Ravens now that I look at it. You have San Francisco, who's favored by 9.5 points, and I'm taking the Packers to cover that. I don't think that the 49ers, although the 49ers are definitely one of the most complete teams in the NFL, that's why they're the 1 seed. You have the Packers, who Jordan Love can't seem to do anything wrong. I mean, last week versus the Cowboys, they took him out in the fourth quarter because he was just so darn good. 3 touchdowns over 272 yards. Man, he's playing so well. So I just don't. You can't bet against him, and this wide receiver core has come up clutch for him. I'm not gonna excuse me. I'm not gonna lie. His wide receivers, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson didn't have his best game, but he's going to be very good, and he's going to come up clutch in some point. Dobbs went for 150. He's great. Jaden Reed, the rookie, he's a great player. Dontavian Wicks, I don't know where he came from, but he had a touchdown. Luke Musgrave, the tight end out of Oregon State, played very well. He's been playing very well all year. He doesn't get a lot of love, but I think he's a top 20, maybe even a top 15 tight end. Top 15, I would say he's a top 15 tight end if I were perfectly honest. And we will be ranking players after the whole season is over by position. You heard it here. We're going to be doing that, going by position. All right, moving on. So, actually, before we move on, I take the 49ers to win, Packers to cover. I think this is going to be a little bit more high scoring, probably around 31-28. Maybe around there. But I do think that the Packers cover and 49ers outright win by 3 to 5 points. Moving on to the Sunday games. First of all, let me go on a little bit of a tangent here. I can see why they do 1 Saturday game, but why do you have to have 2? I don't want to stay up till 1 in the morning because I'm out here on the East Coast watching Packers and 49ers. I want that to be on 1 o'clock on Sunday. I want it to be a regular Sunday slate where you have the 1 o'clock slate, the 3 to 4 o'clock slate, and the nightcap slate. Anyway, you have the Buccaneers playing at the Lions in the divisional round here. And Detroit is given 6.5 points. I think that the Buccaneers are too good. I think this is going to be more of a 3-point game. You see, these spreads are way too big. Spreads are way too big right now. I would expect it to shrink before the game is actually played. But 6.5 is a lot of points. I'll take Detroit to win this by 2 to 4 points. But I don't see, Tampa Bay is so good, and that receiving core does not get all the credit it deserves. Trey Palmer is a great rookie. I mean, he's a 6th rounder. They got him for nothing. And out of Nebraska, you got Mike Evans, who's just doing Mike Evans things. Chris Godwin, who's always a great receiver. And, Rashad White is a great running back. And when you have Baker Mayfield playing well, he really plays well. And with that receiving core, you can't go wrong. But on Detroit's side, everyone's telling me how Jared Goff is about the most average quarterback they've ever seen. And in my opinion, with Detroit, he's home. He was never at home with the Rams, and he's playing very good ball. I mean, in the game versus the Rams, he came up clutch several times. No interceptions. That's the thing. Everyone talks about, if you get him under pressure, he's going to throw interceptions. He was under pressure. Not a whole lot, but when he was smart with the ball. He throws for 277 yards and a touchdown. You really got to lean on that run game if you're Detroit, in my opinion. You have this Buccaneers defense who's pretty darn good on all stages. They're very underrated. You got Jamel Dean and the other guy, Winfield, Antoine Winfield, correct, in the back end, and they're very good. But you also got a lot of good linebackers, so you want to hit that front four. If I am the Detroit Lions, I want to hit that front four, So I think that using David Montgomery and using Jahmyr Gibbs is imperative in this game. I think that the Lions do win, like I said. I think that the Buccaneers cover because their passing game is too good to not. And the Lions' back end is a little bit suspect. I'm not going to lie. But being in Detroit was by far the best atmosphere in the wild card round. There's no contest. I mean, I was watching that game, man. How could you even play if you're the Lions? I mean, that atmosphere was just great. You had Eminem in the stands. I mean, everyone was just out of their minds there. I mean, and it's great that we have that atmosphere there for the Lions. I feel good for I feel, they deserve this after so many years of just being the laughingstock of the league. Moving on to the last game of the wild card round, you have the Chiefs playing at Buffalo. This game will be played in Buffalo for the first time. This historic rivalry that's always been played in Arrowhead. And these teams played in, what was it, week 10? Something like that? What was that? Something like that. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe it was week 12. But regardless, they played a little bit earlier. And that was the infamous game. The Chiefs had the game-winning touchdown, but Kadarius Toney lined up off sides. Man. But anyway, this game will be played in Buffalo. The wintry conditions that's a mild way to put it. The snowstorm conditions that we had last week for the Steelers game Steelers-Bills game is still going to be in effect, from what I've been hearing and just following Weather Channel, whatever, the news. I think that it will be pretty cold out there, and that's an understatement. Buffalo is the 3-point favorite. I agree by and large to this. I think I'm going to take the Bills by 3 to 5 points. I just don't think that the Chiefs never proved anything to me versus the Dolphins. They played pretty good D, and they leaned on Isaiah Pacheco a little bit. But, to beat this Bills team, you're going to have to stop Josh Allen, and that's a whole different animal than Tua when he's just standing back there. Tua just didn't do anything. So I think that the Bills win this game by about 3 to 5 points. This is the only game that I would actually take the spread here with Buffalo. And lastly, for this, it's imperative that Kansas City stops Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is a great wide receiver. They're going to have to stop him in this game. And thank you for watching. If you've watched all the way through at this point, give a subscription, like the video, and as always, put a comment down there. I'd love to see them. And check out the community page. I have polls for all these games, and I will be doing a reaction to this come Monday or Tuesday, depending on my schedule. And I will be previewing the championship games next week. All right, bye-bye.